So we're gonna make a conversation about food fun. We'll try. I'm gonna start with Mr. Kevin's because this is your fourth cookbook, and I wanted to know if your recipe for writing a cookbook has changed.
Have a great wife. Have a fantastic wife. Have a fantastic support group. Have people like you all that enjoy what I do and allow me to try to. I remember watching Mother and Grandmother, and watching Friends' Mother and Grandmother, and just to keep that alive. That's the whole goal. Is just try to keep it nice, simple, keep folks not afraid of it because it shouldn't be. It should be easy.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Yeah, yeah. Molly, healthy Louisiana food is an oxymoron, of course. So, but how do you write recipes for foodies and fitness fans?
So this is one of those, your place. I'm sitting up here next to these three, and now we're going to talk nutrition. So thanks for coming to us first. So it's really, the recipes in our Eat Fit cookbook are not born of us as registered dietitians. They're born of our restaurants. So over the years, and actually, y'all, this is our 10-year anniversary of Eat Fit, which is our nonprofit initiative. Started in 2013, started super small, had no idea where it was going to go. Now we have it in 6 cities across the state, almost 600 partners. Alon has it on his menu at Miss River. Susan has it on the menu at Mondo in the airport. So it's just really cool to see it grow. So over the years, we had all these amazing recipes from our restaurants, and we were like, what if we compiled these? And so with the restaurants and chefs' permission, we kind of culled together and put together about 125 of those. So it's not the dietitians putting that book together saying, hey, this is delicious. It is the restaurants who created these dishes that also happen to be so nutritious for us, scaled down for the home chef.
But Susan, I'm looking at you because really, I think a lot of us do go to restaurants these days and look for the healthy options. So I'd imagine you would want to incorporate those types of items on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say probably the most popular item at Rosedale after the fried cauliflower is grilled fish, our fresh grilled fish of the day. And rather than having, sometimes I'll do a butter sauce, but often I'll just do a vinaigrette, chunky roast some tomatoes and, make a nice chunky herby vinaigrette. And, that's good eating.
That's good eating. And you could just talk about anything. The way you describe food, you could be talking about rocks and butter, and it would sound tasty. It's like, Alon, cooking is cathartic. I wanted to know if writing this particular cookbook of yours was cathartic.
100%. My career has kind of taken me all over the world, and so I thought to myself, when I sat down to write the book, I said, who's ever going to want to read a book that's got a recipe for gnocchi, hummus, jambalaya, and all of these kind of ingredients that have that spread the world, and it's not like a singular subject. And so I thought, let me just start writing at the beginning. And I started just kind of telling my life story through the lens of food and through the lens of cooking. So it was very, very much of a cathartic exercise because I was, like sobbing most of the time, like reliving some of those dark childhood years and like calling my mom and my dad and saying, tell me, how did this go down? Like, what happened then? And I realized that, food really kind of opened up these paths for me throughout my life and helped me discover which road to take next when I was confused or scared.
I mean, food is like music. It's that thing that brings us all together. And just listening to you talk about your experience writing this book and how it just evokes so much emotion. I mean, food is an emotional tool for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And Molly can speak to this because we eat out of anxiety, we eat out of depression, we eat because, hello.
Out of joy.
We eat because we feel good, So talk about how food and emotion, really, they are symbiotic.
I think just like Alon was saying, we feel certain feelings, we go places, there's certain smells, there's things that bring us back to these places that maybe we haven't thought about for so long, and food is that for so many of us. there's also a very like science way that we're hardwired, that food really does light up receptors in our brain, and certain types of foods, especially those that you would think, what do I consider like comfort food or things that I crave when I'm stressed or whatever, these foods do really light up these circuits in our brain that in some ways are very similar to like really highly addictive drugs.
Yeah.
It's wild. And so knowing that, and this isn't a nutrition thing, but I just think it is very important to know that, because when we do feel that, you know, things are out of our control, and no matter how good something tastes, if it's overused, you know, we may not want that. So knowing that that we're hardwired for this, and that it's not just a weakness, it's not just a lack of willpower, knowing that we're hardwired for that helps us to kind of make better choices and not be so hard on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then when we do choose those foods, we're choosing it because it's that specialty thing. We're at Alon's restaurant, we're at Susan's restaurant, we're trying Kevin's recipes, we're treating ourselves to that, and we're making that choice. Yeah.
I'm highly addicted to fried chicken.
Oh my gosh, I'm right there with you.
Coffee Haagen-Dazs for me.
It's my favorite. No kidding. No, we didn't
Takes me
rehearse
to my
this.
happy place.
That is it for me. Oh my goodness. Okay.
And they're trying to find out what I don't like. Monica always says, there has to be something you don't like, and I can't find it. But you know something earlier, you mentioned about eating, I like kidneys. It's about eating healthy, but from day one, Louisiana, we've always been farm to table. We've eaten healthy from the get-go because we've had fresh ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
From day one.
And we'll take it from the bottom
just
of the
gotta
swamp
stop
too,
dropping
if
them in deep
necessary.
fryers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're here celebrating books, so I do want to go back to that for a second, because y'all know that Susan is the OG up here, right? So she's written one book so far.
This is on
Drop
the
the
O.
mic. She might have another one coming. It's been a minute, but you know, listen, I want to point out that Susan's cookbook includes testimonials from Suzanne Goins, Lydia Bastianich, who said it's one big party, Mario Batali, Daniel Boulud. I mean, does that level of peer support, Susan, ever get stale?
No, actually, I wish they were working with me in the kitchen today. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Is it challenging, Susan, staying with you, is it challenging to make your recipes accessible?
No, not at all. A lot of the recipes, even the more complicated ones, can be broken down into smaller components. So if you don't feel like tackling the whole recipe, you can just make, you know, one part of it, or, you know, and that's what I tried to do in the book, just to make it. And the one thing I'm proudest about with that cookbook is all the people that tell me how much they use it, and they'll say, you know, this recipe or that recipe, I just made it the other night, and that, you know, that makes me really happy. Or when somebody brings a book for me to sign and it's all like grease stained and, you know, dog-eared, I like that. That's
Nice. Alon, I want to ask you, in terms of your recipes, would you say they're better suited for group dining or for the person who's wanting to eat alone and just...
Yeah, I think in the Shaya cookbook, for sure, I think the recipes are more catered towards kind of family style dining. That tends to be my default when I'm cooking. I really love putting, like even when I'm just cooking for my wife and daughter and I'll make a big platter on the middle and put it in the middle of the table, and then it'll be like, well, why didn't we just put it in 3 plates? I'm like, no, because it's family style. You know, we can all just pull what we want off the platter. And so I really enjoy doing cooking that way, and I think the book really reflects that. But we were very cognizant to ensure that the recipes, that you could find the ingredients at a grocery store, that if the recipe was going to take a long time, that we note it with like a little time clock at the top of the recipe, because we want it to be user-friendly, and we want people to feel that they can be like, you know, that they can be comfortable with picking the book up and making dinner that night. And that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about the ingredients posted in the book, because Kevin, in your book, there's a recipe for fried alligator bites. Sounds great, but just hear me out for a second. Because I'm thinking, you know, if I'm in Wyoming, say, and I'm in Jackson Hole, I don't have an alligator guy. How do I get the alligator meat for the fried alligator bites?
That's something I try to do in all the books, because I've been blessed to have the show all across the country. And so I know that person in Wyoming is not going to have that. But somewhere in the book I talk about making do with what you have at home and taking these recipes and make them yours. So you can take that same alligator bite and use it as a coyote, maybe something attacking your sheep, and you got that coyote, and now you have coyote bites.
Okay, now.
Or
look,
rattlesnake
Well,
bites.
instead of the coyote biting you, you bite the coyote.
Exactly.
Look, like little coyote and cayenne, okay?
Ooh,
See, right?
a new restaurant in Wyoming coming soon.
Yeah.
So Molly, I would like to get your advice that evokes that aha moment in people when you're telling them to let them know and convince them that healthy food can be tasty. Eating healthy is not boring and
There's
bland.
so many surprises for people. You know, I think we have in our head what healthy is, and then as people are flipping through, they're like, oh, wow, this is like in the dessert section, like the peanut butter cups are the one dessert that most people tell me they make all the time. And I'm comfortable saying this, I think they're better than a Reese's peanut butter cup. It's a big statement, I know. But they're also no sugar, they're healthy, they're natural ingredients. And so when someone tries it, they're like, wow, it's stunning. Things like the crab cakes we have, the Dickey Brennan crab cakes are, no one's gonna go there. You're not ordering that thinking that's a healthy dish, but yet there's no white flour. It's all like just very simple key ingredients, and it's actually really nutritious and something that's actually one of the more simple recipes to make at home. So when someone starts to look at these things, or even just with Eat Fit in general, the different things that we have on the menu, wow, it's not just a grilled chicken salad. There's so many other things there. Alon, y'all just launched a lot of new items on your menu, including drinks, and there's always surprises and beautiful dishes that someone's maybe their eye wouldn't go to it and think, oh, I'm gonna make the healthy choice. But when our dietitian, we have Emma actually over here, who's our Eat Fit NOLA dietitian, when she's working with Alon's executive chef and breaking down these recipes, we're able to identify it and bring these surprises to people and go, oh wow, like I had no idea, and it's also good for me.
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I'm going to Saba because I know hummus, that's just going to be good for me. And it's so
It
tasty.
will.
I just, do a little facial with it while I'm there and just act like nobody's watching, So that's already
We'll be serving hummus after the talk back there, so
Perfect.
you can get some before you leave.
facials. Listen, we're keeping it real up here. We're in New Orleans. We love to eat. We love to drink, too. Come on now. So, Susan, in your book, I want you to tell us about your chapter on killer cocktails from Bourbon Street.
Oh, well, that's, we're close, we're one street over from Bourbon Street at Bayona, and so, we just created a couple of different ones, and I like satsuma juice and making a margarita with satsuma juice, and, that's something a little bit different, and I think there's some classic ones in there too, the Sazerac. I'm more of a wine kind of one, wine at the end of the day kind of gal, but everybody likes cocktails in these days, you can do the mocktails, and especially, right now during Lent, there's a lot of people doing that. So,
Absolutely.
you
Kevin,
can adapt them that way.
yeah, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Kevin, I wanted to, again, because we're talking about the cookbooks, and you've written, now this is your fourth one, right?
Yes.
So, have you made any mistakes? Like when your first book versus now, have you learned? I mean, we all learn as we go with whatever it is that we do. Have you?
Fortunately, knock on wood, everything worked out.
Wow.
But something Alon was saying about when you're putting it together, how it evokes so many memories.
Yeah.
And I think now I'm to the point where I don't cry anymore. Thinking I've kept my pages
Yeah.
because from the original writings, because some of them have tears on them, some of them have food stains on them. So it has gotten easier in the sense of telling the story because I've told it already. But as far as the recipes go, I'm always concerned that I want people to try it. I want it to be nice and simple,
Yeah.
that people aren't intimidated by it.
Yeah.
And I do have to say that as a chef, I use everybody else's cookbook when I cook at home because I don't want what I make.
That's interesting. Interesting. I was going to ask you, and you sort of said it already, about sentimental recipes. And I'm wondering if you do have something from your great-grandma or something that you kind of carry into all of your your books?
The newest one has recipes that my grandmother did. Grandmother came from Lafourche Crossing, which is right outside of Thibodeau. So the first 3 recipes in, oh, Michelle, we got somebody from Thibodeau, Michelle, huh?
Hey, là-bas.
And so I dedicated that to my grandmother's family for that, and did recipes. I tried to do the recipes that she did. There's only one thing that she made that I can't make, and that's she made a sautéed spinach. And I make it, and my son say, it's close, but that's not grandma's.
Really? Well, you have to keep working on that. But isn't that wonderful? I'm happy to hear this because, Kevin is a very tall man in stature. He's very confident. And I love that he can be vulnerable and say, I just can't do it. I'm trying, but I can't get it. But you'll keep working on it.
And the kids will let you know. Your kids will let you know. But I come close, and they say, Dad, it's close, but it's not grandma's.
Yeah, yeah. Alon, I want to go back to this whole idea of sentimental recipes because this cookbook really pulled something out of you. I feel like it kind of put you someplace, pulled you out of it, put you back there. And how did you come out on the other end?
Well, I think I learned how I got to where I am by writing the book. Your life can kind of fly by, and the way that you perceive what you may be going through in life or where you are now versus when you were 14, 15 years old or 5 or 6 years old or 25 years old. And so it was kind of like going back in time and thinking about things that I just hadn't thought about in 30 years or 40 years. And realizing that there were still questions I needed to ask my family, to ask former mentors about what were they going through at that time. Like I know maybe I was going through, what I thought I was going through, but what were they going through and how did that affect the food that ended up in front of me and on the table? And through just kind of starting at the beginning and taking it one step at a time and thinking about how this one smell of roasted peppers being charred on a stovetop could have potentially sent my entire life on a path that had that not happened, I wouldn't have been where I am today. And it comes down to things as simple as that. My family immigrated from Israel when I was 4 years old. When I was 5, my mother and father split up, and my mother was raising us on her own. And so my Saba and my Safta, which are my grandparents, they would come and visit from Israel. And I remember I was in first grade, and I opened the front door to my house, and I smelled my grandmother roasting peppers and eggplants on the stovetop. And that smell not only got me hungry, but it made me think that things were going to be okay for a little bit, that like my family was back together, that this is the smell that I remember as a child from Israel, that things will be normal, that they'll take me out to eat Chinese food and get ice cream and the things that like my mom couldn't afford to do for us on her own. So I credit that smell of peppers and eggplants with making me understand the importance of what food can be for somebody.
Yeah, it's something that, go ahead, Susan.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, as soon as he said the 2 words, roasting peppers, I immediately went in my head to a place in Spain where I had peppers that and I bet you Kevin went somewhere, somewhere else too.
Without
And
a
just
doubt.
those 2 words, just like, pew,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there in different places.
You know what I thought about? Made me think about when you said where as a child? The clacking of crabs in that porcelain sink. That was my moment when your red bell peppers,
Yeah.
hearing those crabs in that porcelain sink.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw a pizza come out of a wood-burning oven. I was 16 years old, and I felt like I just kissed the prettiest girl. And
Yes,
I was like,
Her lips were really hot, Alon, weren't they?
that's right. That's right.
I was like, why does this pizza make me feel this way?
Okay, I'm gonna have talk with you after this.
But no, that's the power that food can have.
I love it. We're talking about being chefs at home and taking these recipes, and apparently these excellent chefs don't mind if we kind of make it our own and enjoy it ourselves. But I wanted to go to you, Molly, because, we all see these commercials for the meals in a box. What are your thoughts on that in terms of trying to stay healthy and make healthy choices?
You mean like prepared meals?
Yeah. Well, no, they're not prepared. They come, they give you all the
Oh.
ingredients, and they send the recipe all in the box, and then you follow the recipe.
Like a Hello Chef Blue Apron.
Yeah. I was
I think I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of it. But a lot of times if someone wants to cook that from scratch recipe, the biggest barrier for so many people is going to the grocery store. And so if you've got somebody who's busy, but they want to have that act of actually preparing it, number one, the grocery shopping is done for them. So if y'all aren't familiar what she's talking about, like you would get actually the pre-portion, the amount of chicken or pork or beef or whatever fish you were going to use, but also just the right amount of seasoning. And if it was a sweet potato, it might be just the right size sweet potato. So you're still doing the chopping, the dicing, the preparation of it. So going back to do I like those, it really depends on what the type of a dish is. A lot of those have some that are really a lot of lower quality ingredients, a lot of heavy starch, but a lot of them have a lot of lean proteins. They're very produce heavy, and it still does give that person the ability to chop, prepare, and just like Alon and our team here was saying that, like, being able to prepare and serve it, and this is what you're doing for your family, it still gives you that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to be said for that.
Good.
Sure.
Good.
And not a lot of waste.
Right.
A lot of people
Right.
buy, a bunch of celery and,
Right.
you use 2 stalks and it sits in the refrigerator and gets soft. So I think they're good for that reason.
Right. Right.
Alon, what happened?
She's worried what I'm going to say.
No, you're worried about what I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm worried about what you're going to ask him because he's going to start crying, then I'll start crying, and we'll all be
Yeah.
crying.
I'll start crying because you already made me always tearing up listening to you about something because I could see your eyes. I'm like, okay, Kevin's tearing up. This is not good. I'm already sweating. I don't need to start tearing up too. What happens to your life and to your restaurant when you win the James Beard Award?
Well, it definitely puts a spotlight on you, and it to me felt like I was never good with like awards, and so I always felt like I always looked at it as like this team effort that allowed that to happen, and so the phones start ringing more. You realize you don't have enough people working there, and the place gets busier, and then then you have to really live up to those expectations, and so the pressure gets churned up a lot. So it can be a blessing and it can be a curse, and I think just during those moments, remembering that what you already do is special and that you should just continue being who you are and not trying to, because like now all of a sudden there's this award or this kind of attention that you need to try to be better than what you are. And I think that that's always the big struggle is just being confident in the work that you do and that people already appreciate that work, versus trying to potentially reinvent what you think people may be expecting of your work.
Interesting. Susan, same question.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I think it's just, appreciating the recognition. It's nice to be recognized by your peers and your colleagues and, and of course your customers, but they show that by showing up at your restaurant every day, so they're really the important ones.
That's an interesting take. I mean, that's why y'all are who you are. You heard them both say, yeah, the accolades, it's all great and we appreciate it, but really what counts is what we're doing from the heart. You're serving your community, you're fueling people's soul with your food, and it is reciprocated, I take
I'm a
it.
plate watcher. I watch all the plates come back in the kitchen, and when I see empty plates, that's like winning an award. So, when I see food still on the plates.
I have to say something now.
Please.
I've known these folks a long time. And one of the great things about most Louisiana chefs, the awards that are received are earned because they've kept their head down. They aren't chefs that go, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me. No, they did it by hard work and didn't expect it, but earned it. And that's why I look up to them so much.
Very nice. So, Molly, I always say, and I know you obviously subscribe to this, that, food is fuel. You're not going to put bad gas in your car, so don't put bad food in your body. So if there were 3 items that we should consistently eat to keep our bodies operating, at optimum levels, what would that be?
Well, you think about that fried chicken, cake, and, oh, I'm sorry,
Haagen-Dazs ice cream, coffee.
ice cream, yeah, there we go.
It's hard to say the three specific foods, but I think if I was going to say the types, the first thing that I look for is, I think the phrase plant-based kind of gets overused, plant-based. But if you think about, you were talking about doing the facial with the oils that's coming from Alon's restaurants, but plant-based oils, whether it's olive oil or similar, I think fish are Gulf Coast seafood is amazing, and fish of all types with your omega-3s and such. So I think plant-based oils, fish, and then produce, vegetables, fruits. Those are going to be kind of the types. What I thought that question was going to be was, what are the things that if I was going to pick 3 things that I love?
Go for it.
I would put your bread. that bread.
She
that
never
comes-
said
Oh, yeah.
carbohydrates, but now
right?
And it's your bread and your olive oil, if I can just it's saturated as much as possible. In fact, my husband has enlisted his sister, who's a bread baker, to try to master your bread recipe from your book. He's giving her the recipe and stuff and tasked her with it. So something like good bread, good olive oil is my preference. But that sort of goes back to what we were saying, you're choosing to have it. You're choosing to have these beautiful, delicious foods that, would we say that white bread is nutritious? No, but it's the milled grains that Alon is using in that bread is amazing. It's delicious. It warms our soul as we have it. So to me, I also love when someone engages Eat Fit. They use our app. They see the restaurants around them. They go there. They're ordering these healthy dishes, but not denying themselves these things that are also incredibly delicious and also just nourishing to us emotionally as well. So that's how I use our Eat Fit. So I'm choosing these things, and then I'm also really enjoying these other elements of that dinner. And so not everything is because it's nutritious in that textbook sense, but also what it's doing to our emotions and our souls.
Yeah. Everything in moderation. Alon, I'm going to go to you now and ask you if being a chef partner is still enjoyable and satisfying.
absolutely. I mean, it's it's what I've kind of built my identity on, and it has just been ever since I was 7 years old what I've wanted to do. I was lucky enough to know from an early age that this was a path that I wanted to be on, and now, though my job has changed in the sense that I'm not necessarily cooking on the line every night anymore, I get to do more for the community through the Shaya Barnett Foundation. I get to inspire chefs that I work with to, be who they are and be genuine to themselves and to the food that they love, and so it's more about, I think, being able to spread the love that I have for being a chef to the people around me than it is just as much as cooking a dish for somebody.
Yeah, I love that answer. Susan, what about you?
Well, I am still cooking every day on the line most of the time. I'm at Rosedale most of the time. It's a pretty personal, intimate restaurant for me. My nephew is my front of the house partner, and my husband made all the furniture, and I know most of the people that walk through the door. So that's what I like about about what I do. I always say, you know, food is a universal language, and being in the restaurant business, you know, it provides a great social network. So, you know, most of the people that I'm friends with are either, you know, customers or coworkers or, you know. So, yeah, it's still enjoyable, although I'm getting to a certain age where, you know, I'd like to step back a little bit, but that isn't happening anytime soon.
Okay, good. You heard it. No time soon, Susan. No time soon. Now, you know, Susan, you have your nephew working in the kitchen with you. And Kevin, I want to ask you.
No, he works front of the house.
Oh,
He
front of the
runs the front.
So is he is he learning the business of restaurants?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's fully in it. He's, you know, he doesn't like people to know that he's my nephew because he feels like, you know,
No.
they're going to think he didn't earn the job, but he most definitely did.
I have a feeling that your standards are high, and just because he's your nephew, he does not get a pass. But the point is that you are, you know, you're paying it forward, pulling someone from the rear, you know, everything like that, making sure that they have a path to the success that you
Oh,
have
yeah.
enjoyed. And Kevin, I wanted to ask you on that note, what is the best advice that you could give to aspiring chefs?
Read. Mom was a teacher, and she says, anything you want to know, pick up a book and read it. And when I had friends that had restaurants, and they said, hey, I have somebody out sick, can you come give a hand? And it's like, well, I don't know what to do. I'll tell you what to do. And then I remember Mom saying, so I started reading cookbooks that they used in cooking schools. And that's how I learned the business, coming up in it, helping out friends. And you have to like what you do. If you don't like it, don't do it. So I really wish we had programs that would allow our kids in high school to start trades. Because everybody's not meant to go to college for that. Well, I mean,
No,
it's, you know, we need everybody, but we also need folks that work with their hands. And I was over in France working with 3 schools over there, and the kids choose to go to high school, and they can stay through college, and they learn hospitality, they learn business, they learn culinary. And by the time they finish, they've got their high school diploma, but they also have a college degree and can go out and work.
Yeah.
And I think we need that here in the States.
I like it. I like it.
There is a school that just, that's been around, but is just moving into a brand-new building called the New Orleans Career Center. And I'm on the board of it, and so I want to shoot a big plug to the New Orleans Career Center, because it is a career and technical science school, not only culinary, but also healthcare,
Yes.
engineering, and cybersecurity, and skilled craft. And so that's going to have access to over 26 charters around the city will have access to send their students there for part of the day to get that training.
That's great.
So is
Because
that
we have to reach back
Yeah.
and teach the youth and pull our youth along with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that available now? I mean, if there were some educators who wanted to
absolutely.
tap into it, they
Yeah,
go.
the New Orleans Career Center.
Okay, okay.
It's on Carolick, right not too far from Little Dizzy's,
Okay.
off of Esplanade.
Yep, yep. I'm going to open up for audience questions, so just get prepared, but I'm going to do a quick last round with each of you. I'll start with Susan. Your 3 favorite spices.
Rosemary, which is an herb, not a spice. Spices, I like cardamom. I think it's kind of underused in this country, and I think it's lovely. And what else? And pepper, I guess, black pepper.
Okay. I have a gorgeous cardamom sweater. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. Seriously, it's a corny joke. I'm sorry. It just came to my head. I couldn't help myself.
I get it.
Okay, Alon, this is yours. Okay. Do you like watching the cooking competition shows?
I do not.
Well, that was succinct.
It just it's stressful to me. I feel stressed out when I watch it.
Well, Susan knows a thing about that because you.
Well, I was a judge on Top Chef. I would never be a competitor, ever. They call all the time to ask me to beat Bobby Flay, and I'm like, no thanks.
So Alon, so you're not sitting there trying to come up with it, well, you don't even want to watch, but if you were it's stressful? Do you feel like you want to try to make something, or like, how are they going to do that with those ingredients?
No.
Just no. Just no, Arthel, stop, no follow-ups. All right.
Nope.
So we got a glimpse into everybody else. Your favorite guilty, and not Alon's bread, your guilty pleasure snack or meal?
Gosh, that's hard. Probably one that we do the most would be pizza, and like wood-fired pizza, like you guys were saying, and that's something that we have at least a couple of times a month. I like it with like the fresh mozzarella or burrata on it. We put a little bit of prosciutto on it, basil, just keeping it really fresh there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I wouldn't call it a guilty because I don't feel guilty about it. Kind of like we said earlier, I just really like it. Okay. And so that's something that we have, it's, that's probably like the go-to. But there's a lot, you were talking about fried chicken. I mean, who doesn't like fried chicken,
So
there's
hang on. Is there anybody, and I'm gonna put you on the spot. Is there anybody in here, unless you're a vegan, is there anybody in here who does not like fried chicken? Because you are gonna get a timeout. Okay, good. No
one's
hands are
owning up
raised.
to it. No one's
We're all
owning up.
good. We're in a safe space. Okay, this is good. And Kevin, so we're always seeing Kevin on TV, cooking on TV. But I want to ask you, when you're alone, it's just you cooking. Is there a particular song you like to sing?
I listen to the whole variety. I listen to a lot of local musicians. I'll go from classical to R&B to rock to jazz to brass bands. And that's something that I think if anybody cooks at home and you have problems cooking, put on some music. Put on music that relaxes you and cook with that music in the background.
Can I ask, when the cameras aren't rolling, are you also dancing while you're cooking?
Yeah, how you think all those outtakes come? I mean, I forget that they're rolling. All those outtakes are me just being stupid because as soon as they clear and they need to check something upstairs, it's the crew and I. We just go back and forth bantering and having fun. But I don't cook at home. I'll cook Monica dinner, and I'll eat cereal. And my go-to is a hot dog.
Oh, what's your go-to cereal?
Right now I have Honey Nut Cheerios, shredded wheat, and granola.
Okay.
We're going to talk after.
Yes, ma'am.
You might be in trouble, Mr. Belton. I'm just saying.
But it's moderation. It's moderation.
That's right. That's
too
right.
much butter, too much salt, too much sugar is going to make any recipe bad.
What?
Yes. Yes. Too much butter, it'll taste greasy. Too much sugar, you can't eat it. Too much salt, you can't eat it. It has to be.
You're right.
It has to be in moderation.
You're right. You're right. And I'm going to tell a quick story, but if there's anyone who has a question, please kind of make yourself known so I can. All right. I think you guys want them to go. Y'all want to go to the mic, right? There's that mic right there. You're the closest, so why don't you step up first? And there's one on either side.
My wife and I are locals, so we love Rosedale, we love Shaya, we live near Shaya. But I want to ask Kevin, what was the thought process or the rationale why you never, your public wants to know why you never opened a restaurant?
Yeah, I get emails every day talking about I'll be in New Orleans, where can I come taste your food? Actually, last year, I put in a bid on a business that was going out, and my real estate agent called me up. He says they decided not to sell it. And the next week, Ida hit. And so that was, thank you, Jesus.
You're living right. Yes, you're living right.
So, I'll work something out eventually because that's what everyone says. Where can we come taste your food? And at WWL, they lock the doors. They don't let the crew in from upstairs. Salespeople can't get down to the studio. They
Yeah.
lock the studio down.
No, I remember when I worked at WWL years ago, and when Kevin would come on, that was early in the days, and Kevin would come on, seriously, I mean, and I was a reporter. I had nothing to do with the morning show at the time, but I was in the newsroom, and I made sure, I'm like,
Oh, you gotta feed them.
he's making gumbo, can I have a little bit, please? Don't you see I'm a little famished? I'm gonna need a little something. This was excellent. Go ahead, sir.
With all the great restaurants we have here in New Orleans, why is it that Michelin completely overlooks New Orleans restaurants?
Because we have good food at our restaurants.
Well,
Sorry.
the city has to pay for Michelin to come and rate the restaurants. It's like a pay to play. So like cities that Michelin does rate get lots of funding from the city. And I think New Orleans has more important things to spend its money on.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask if, for all of you guys, if your like cooking profession has affected your love for cooking personally.
No. Or eating. No. It's, no, I still love to cook at home for my husband and myself. And I was going to say, I got this new trick that I do on my husband. We're trying to cut back on salt. So I get the salt substitute and I put it, we use the kosher salt, that we sprinkle with our fingers. And I mix it like half and half. So
Oh,
we're
that's a
trying.
good idea.
Interesting. Does he know? He doesn't know this.
No, he has no idea. So.
That's a good trick. I need to use it myself. Do we have another question?
Hi, I'm just wondering, what would be your number one tip for an up-and-coming baker or chef?
Number one, what?
Your number one tip for an upcoming baker or chef?
Well, I would, agree with what Kevin said about reading and just studying and trying to put as much work into the research as you can. But I think the other important thing is telling your story through what you cook or what you bake and thinking of it as, I was watching Cleo Wade up here earlier talking. She's a poet, and, just like she was talking about how she can pull things from her imagination and kind of make them real. And I think like just being true to yourself and thinking about like what makes you happy through baking or through food, and then really doubling down on that and not feeling apologetic for that at all.
I have time for one last question and like a 30-second answer.
This is easy. You asked about the awards and how it changed the restaurants, and I'm a native New Orleanian, and I will tell you that I went to both of your restaurants, each of your restaurants, when they opened, and it didn't change a bit. Saba and Rosedale still say, "Welcome home," every time you walk in the door.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to this wonderful panel, and thank you for all of your time, attention, and your great questions and interests. Thank you so much.
And now let's eat.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's eat.